I see Taliban maneuvering on them. And I look down, I'm standing on an improvised explosive device. And all of a sudden, I hear, "I've got you." God, was that you? I think I just heard from God.
Like, so you're in the Navy SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
What's another like mission that you're really, maybe like one of the most intense missions you've been on?
That big operation that I did in Afghanistan, we had gone mission complete, essentially, in a certain region. And by working by, through, and with the local population, we had basically made it a white space, meaning like it was now a thriving society to a degree, right? It was a secure area. And so we were going to try and go and rinse and repeat what we had already done and had been successful at, and try and do it in a hotbed that was swarming with activity. I mean,
by hotbed, you mean like, there's hostile enemies.
Yes, hostile intent and hostile action, as we would call it, all over the area. Whenever a coalition force or an American force would have a presence there, it would be very difficult. It would be challenging. And so we had looked at, okay, how do we get in to this area and start the process all over again? And so it takes analysis, takes time. And finally, I determined that we were going to have to do a massive clearance operation before we went in there. And I had to petition to get a Marine element to help me, because I knew if we went in there, just us, it was going to be like an Alamo situation. And thank God we did. We did this operation because we were right. We were absolutely right. And so as we cleared through, we inserted in the middle of the night, we start clearing through. It was about a 4 by 7 mile valley that was, bordered on both sides by low hills. And
so it was like a small town, or like
like around like a 10,000.
Okay.
So we're essentially clearing through that entire area over an entire week, and it's taken us some time, right? Because it's a big stretch of land to go through, and just see and also analyze, understand what's happening in the region, what the villagers say is happening, and what is really happening, right? And so as we're pushing through, we're gaining analytics, atmospherics, all the things, and all of a sudden, on day 3, like we're shadowing one of the Marine elements down in the valley on a little bit of a rise, and I see Taliban maneuvering on them, or we see Taliban maneuvering on them, and so to get a better angle on what the activity we saw, we decided, I grabbed my Joint Terminal Air Controlman, who's another SEAL. I grabbed him and I said, hey, let's get up to about a little bit of an elevation. Like, let's just run up there real quick. Let's get a look. And we'll call in, a HIMAR, which is one of my favorite use pieces of artillery. I love that thing. And a HIMAR is essentially like a truck that's parked like, 40 miles away. And on the back of it, it has a bank of rockets, essentially, that just go up to like 90,000 feet and come down and strike with, like a 5-meter precision.
That's wild.
It really is. It really is. And
how big was the Taliban group, by the way?
Like a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but it was a smaller Marine element that was about to get ambushed. Right. So they were separated from the main Marine element, and they're about to get ambushed. And so, we run up to this, we just get up to get elevation check, and then lays the target essentially, and call in the strike. And as soon as we get up there, cause we're just going to go, this is it in real time. This is it. Run up there. I'm here. I see 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. Okay, let's go. And that's the real time of it was going to be like, get up there. Okay, 3, you good? I'm good. You're good. Okay, let's go. Boom, and get back down. Because the reason why is we were extremely exposed on the side of this hill. Like, it was basically like in a tactician's mind, it's basically like waving one of those at a used car salesman guy, like it's that. It's like you're putting one of those on the side of a mountain right now by us being there, especially with locals who know the area and are hunting. It's like putting one of those things on the side of a hill, literally. So we are extremely exposed, and we weren't going to be there long, and that's why why the sense of urgency, right? Let's get back down. So at the 3,000, 4,000 in my count, right? Like that
you actually will literally count while you're up there.
No, no, I'm just doing that for you and the audience.
Yeah.
Just giving you, like, we were supposed to be up there 8 seconds, right? Maybe just ding, ding, ding. And right at like the 2.5, 3 second mark, I get a ba-bung elbow to my rib from my JTAC. And I'm like, dude, what the? And he looks at me and he's like, dude. And he just points down at the ground. And I look down and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I'm standing on an improvised explosive device. It's a pressure plate. It's a pressure release, which means when we step off this thing, it's going to go. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I look down and it looks like this is not a hero's act. It looks like, I want to be clear, this is not a hero's act. In my mind, I just thought I was doing the right thing with what I did here in a minute. So I look down and I think like more of my foot's on it than his, but I also look at him and he's like 60, 75 pounds lighter than me. And I'm like, dude, you go first. If maybe one of us gets off this thing. And he's like, dude. And all of a sudden, as he's like kind of about to argue, and because he's at the time junior to me, now he's an awesome Master Chief. But at the time he's junior to me, and I'm like, not a hero's act, right? I'm like, dude, I think I'm heavier. Maybe I'll just hold it because it hasn't gone off. It's probably a pressure release, and I think I'll be fine. And he's like, dude, I'm like, bro, you got to call it in. And this is not a hero's act. I'm like, you got to call it in.
What do you mean call it in?
For the
Taliban.
guys, for the
so
Taliban.
You guys didn't call it in yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so
you got to go comms black. Because if it's a radio frequency control device, we don't know. But if it's a radio frequency control device, we can't talk on our radios because that could set it off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, dude, you've got to go make the call. You have to. You have to, dude. I'll hold it. Again, not a hero's act. It was like, hey, dude, at least I think this might work.
Right.
And so he gets down to the bottom of the hill and he steps off and runs down the bottom of the hill. And I hear him he calls it in and then he goes, hey, Buck's on an IED, my nickname.
Right.
And our explosive ordnance disposal guys go, roger that, on way, ETA, 90 minutes. I'm like that used car thing just flopping around there on the side of this mountain to everyone down below. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, you got to be kidding. And all of a sudden, I hear clearly, like just, we're in a sound studio right now, like good sound,
right.
Like, I've got you. And I'm like, because I have my headbutts in, my headphones in, earphones, my earbuds. And the sound is not like what's in my, you put a microphone on or you put a bad radio up to your ear when you're talking on multiple frequencies with multiple nets.
Yeah, it's not clear.
It's not that clear.
Right.
It's just not. It's getting better to it, but you also need noise cancellation in these devices, right? Which makes it very challenging to have a radio mixed with noise cancellation to be like crystal HD audio. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So, and they're getting there. Then I bet in the next couple of years they'll have some amazing stuff. But anyway, I hear that. And I'm like, what was that? Now, mind you, again, we talked about earlier, I'm in this phase where I'm in Kyle mode. I'm in selfish mode. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
walking with Jesus. I'm not walking with the Lord. And I go, Lord, was that you? God, was that you? I'm not in a relationship at the time. And I'm like, I think that now I'm freaking out. Now I'm talking to myself. There's no one up there but me. And I'm like, I think I just heard from God. I think I just heard from God. I really, really think I did. Well, let's ask him. Hey, God, was that you? And did I hear you? Is that you talking to me right now? If that's not you, is that you? And I hear it again. I've got you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I heard it that time. I heard it. Yep, I heard it. Okay. Man, I've never heard that before. That's amazing. Wow. And now I'm like, and then I'm just like, I'm kind of dazed, kind of a little out of it for a second, right? And then I'm like, okay, hey, wake up, back to the present. You're standing on something, And I'm like, oh yeah. So I look down and I'm like, all right, well, I think that was you, Lord. I believe that was you. If it's not you, please take care of Candace, my wife. At the time, we don't have any kids, and I'm like, just make her know that I love her, that I really, really love her. Like that's where my heart's at. And for everything I've done in the past, I'm an idiot. Please forgive me. Amen. Right? And I step off, and obviously nothing happened. I get down to the bottom of the hill. I had heard God's voice say to me, I've got you 3 times while I was on the top of that hill. And I get down to the bottom of the hill. Me and my JTAC hug it out. And I'm like, dude, you're never going to believe this, right? And then I'm like, oh, we get Marines, and get sidetracked. We get right back into the mission, right? And an EOD guy comes over later, like 2 hours later, and he's like, hey, we marked it. We blew it. You guys were right. It was a pressure release. He goes, when you stepped off, Buck, something just held it. He goes, I can't explain it, but we did field forensics and we can't explain why it didn't go off. I'm like, how big was it? He goes, it was 10 pounds of TNT, 10 pounds new, we call it, net explosive weight. And I was like, dude, I'm like, how deep? He goes, it was 9 inches. I'm like, Jiminy. Because what that means is it was right below the plate, meaning if when it went off, 10 pounds new, I wouldn't have if I lived, I wouldn't have my reproductive organs. My JTAC, wouldn't have his reproductive organs. We wouldn't have our legs, our lower extremities, our hands potentially, if my left hand was down by my thigh, would probably have been disintegrated as well. My other hand up with the gun, my left probably would have been down, gone. And my 3 beautiful children and his 2 beautiful daughters would not even be alive. And the EOD guy goes, thank God, huh? And I'm like, bro, you have no idea. He's like, I got to go. I'm like, no, yeah, I get it. Go. You're important. Get out of here. And I never got to tell him because I never saw him again, that guy. And, but if he's listening, it's wild, huh, buddy? Yeah, it was wild. So I'll never forget that.
I mean, I can just imagine like you're standing on this plate, and like I guess that you were kind of going through those motions of like, forgive me for like everything that I've done, kind of like making amends. Like you probably thought you were going out at that time.
Yeah, kind of like I could very well potentially go out.
And when you stepped off of it, did you like tiptoe off it? Did you like jump off of it and run?
No, I sprinted. I sprinted down the hill as fast as I could.
Which seems like a smart way to do it.
Yeah, I sprinted. I got off. What I'm trying to calculate in my head is if I like sprint off the gate, or if I think I slowly remove my foot. And then once I felt like the weight, then I moved to a dead sprint. That's what I did. Probably wasn't the move, but that's what I felt I did.
And so how long were you up there total? Like just kind of contemplating?
90 seconds, maybe 90 seconds, maybe 120 seconds.
And you heard God's voice 3 times.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And then so, I mean, after
And I
that,
didn't get shot. Or that's the other thing. I didn't get, nothing came at me. It wasn't just the ID, to be clear. At any second, a mortar, an RPG, like anything, PKM fire, like anything could have come riddling my way.
Mhm.
Don't forget, I was standing there.
right,
Like I'm flopping in the wind. It completely exposed how we would view that position.
right,
You know, completely exposed.
yeah, that is. I mean, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a miracle that you're still here.
Yeah. So nothing came at me. No rockets came at me, and that thing didn't go off. So I mean, all the above.
I mean, that is something that most people don't. I mean, most people aren't in that situation, but I think most people aren't also like hearing the voice of God.
Yeah.
In that, in that audible way. I've always wondered, like, is it audible? Is it like just in my head? Is it like?
I have strong feelings on this. I have really strong feelings on this. I think the reason why we don't hear the voice of God or the Holy Spirit regularly is because today's modern church isn't pushing people to do that.
I can see that.
Right? The modern church isn't pushing us to lean on Him and hear Him on a regular basis. They're not. And it's afforded to all of us, but yet the modern day religion doesn't point to hearing from Him and taking guidance from Him and obedience from Him on a day-to-day basis.
Can you share some of your like practical ways to like dive into that?
Well, I mean, I think, and now I spat my belief, right? Now I gotta, now I also had to do the challenge of backing it up. And I'll probably jack that up a little bit here. So I'll ask for some grace.
I mean, none of us are perfect.
I'll ask for some grace. But you know, I think first things first is pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing until you do hear it. And if you're not hearing it, okay, what's blocking it? What do you need forgiveness from? Or what have you not forgiven yourself? What are you doing? What are you doing still in the moment of prayer and asking redemption for prayer? What are you still doing right then in that very moment that's blocking you from hearing Him? We all had it at one point, all of us. Mine was selfishness. Mine was impatience. I was extremely impatient, right? Extremely impatient. So it had to be on my time when I was going to hear from Him, right? Extremely selfish. I was only praying for Kyle, right? And so I wasn't praying for anyone else. I wasn't asking the Lord to use me for anyone else. I was focused on me and my problems, me and my business, me and my family. Me and my success. I wasn't asking, hey, what do you want me to do right now for your kingdom? And even though I was asking forgiveness in the big sins, lust, right? I used to have a lust problem, right? I would ask for those big sins. Well, what about just the little ones? What about the little ones? Lusting after success or women? Well, sure, Kyle, you're forgiven of that. What about your selfishness? All you're doing is asking for yourself. And so I believe that pray without ceasing, but also you pray and you ask for forgiveness. Well, what are you still dealing with right then and there that you haven't addressed? Or you didn't even ask for forgiveness? Are you in the moment of prayer, you just asked for all your past sins? What are you still dealing with? What are you still sinning on? Because you're perfect for a moment, right? You're really perfect for a moment. When you ask for God's forgiveness, He gives it to us instantaneously. He says, okay, I grant you carte blanche forgiveness for all of it if we ask Him for the past. And He does it. And that's the beauty of salvation. What are we doing that very next second that we now got to keep asking for forgiveness for? Right? And where no one's perfect, but for a slimmer of time, we are. Right. We are. When you start something new, okay, what is it? Because when you can address it truly, and you can move on from it. Again, we're not perfect. Then you get to a place where you can say, hey, can you start using me? What do you want me, what do you want me to tell me? What do you want me to see? What do you want me to know? And it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible when we just wait on him.